法師好，
你好，陳老師。
聽你聲好，
陳老師好，
苗老太好，阿彌陀佛，國官師兄你好，
好，老師好，
好耐唔見你啊！
係
喺網上見就平時冇見到你，
我出街喺佢屋企，
你冇去佛堂喂？
冇啊，冇去，
係咯。你腳好啲嘛？
好啲，老師，多謝。
Okay, let's sit in silence for a minute or two before we get started. Welcome everyone. Welcome to our monthly English session, a Dharma talk and a meditation with Venerable De Hong. So with that, I'm going to turn the podium over and welcome Venerable De Hong.
Thank you.
Thank you for guiding us.
Thank you. Greeting everyone, wherever you are. Let me slideshow. So last month we started with the Fourth Noble Truth, or the Eightfold Path. And we covered part 1, and tonight we'll cover part 2. Just a bit of review. The thing about Buddhism is that whatever that you read, you need to put into practice. It's not just FYI. We have to meditate and figure out how to apply the Buddha's teaching to deal with our suffering. And also, it's not just to overcome our suffering or dukkha, and also to end the negative karma, and just continue to create positive karma for our lives. So last month we covered right view and right intention. Right view is to look at life through the lens of the Four Noble Truths. Basically, what are my stresses and what are the root causes, and how do I bring an end to them? And then right intention or skillful thinking involves abandoning negative thoughts and replacing them with wholesome thoughts. It also involves letting go, practicing loving kindness and compassion. And we need to be mindful that we need to abandon our habit of clinging to people, even relationships and material, in our lives. And also the false belief or false ideas and also opinions. That is right intention. And when we understand both and meditate on these two and figure out know how to apply these two to our experiences, then that's what we call wisdom, is to be able to see through suffering and know how to overcome our suffering. That is wisdom. Just a little bit review from the First Noble Truth. If you guys remember, I created a chart which only listed 4 types of suffering. But over the past 2 months, I looked over the pyramid, and this is what I have at the very bottom. It's basically the First Noble Truth that the Buddha talked about. Birth, aging, sickness, and death. We can't have what we want. We have to deal with people we don't like. We are separate from our loved ones. That's the basic, and that covers everything else on top of them, of the First Noble Truth. However, because we live in modern society and we have different terms for modern stress, and also, we are too busy. Sometimes we don't even have time to even learn about our stress. So I put this out there so that this can apply to anyone. So the second layer from the bottom is what I call childhood trauma that involves physical, verbal, and sexual abuse, be it by parents or caregivers. It also involves neglect or abandonment by parents or caregivers. That is childhood trauma. The third layer is incarceration. This applies to folks inside the prison. Just because my work is primarily, my volunteer work is primarily serving the folks inside the prison. So I need to add that in because that is a lot of trauma. And also they suffer trauma on a daily basis, much more than we ever realized. And that's why Dr. Gabor Mate said, this is the most traumatized population in America, if not the world. And then the fourth layer is the trauma from natural disasters, right? Disease such as COVID. And if you grew up from war-torn country like me, I grew up in Vietnam, that was trauma. So that's number 4. Racial trauma that applies to African American as well as Native American, and also to any ethnicity that was or has been subject to abused or hate rhetoric from politicians. And because of that, it affects people's lives, how it also affects their social status, their way of living. That is racial trauma. There are a lot of books on that. And then there is something called religious trauma. Let's say if you don't believe in certain religion, and the people in that religion would tell you the negative things, this and that is religious trauma. And that happens more so in America than other countries. Considering ironically that we have, or I guess per our constitution, we have this freedom of religion. However, there are a lot of people from other denominations kept telling people of different religions that, they wouldn't go to heaven if they don't believe in their religions. That is religious trauma. Even though this type of trauma has happened for centuries, if not millennium. However, not much has been talked about it, but there are a couple books. I know for sure one was published last year, so you guys could look into it. And then the second from the top is the trauma from your current relationship. If you are in a relationship with someone who is abusive, or from coworkers, that is traumatic. So keep that in mind. And then the top one, the daily stress. Let's say you are running around, you drive around town, you get this and that. That is trauma. For me, my daily stress is not necessarily daily. Each trip to the prison can be very stressful. And it could be traumatic because you have to wait in traffic for hours, and there are people who would cross you, this and that. It can also be traumatic. So this is what 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. These are 7 types of trauma that can apply to anyone. And I think this is important, especially whether or not you see your therapist, but this is really important to recognize. So tonight we continue with the topic of morality, with the second category, right? Morality or moral compass, which involves skillful speech, skillful action, skillful livelihood. So what is right speech? Right speech, according to the Buddha, is abstaining from lying, from divisive speech, from abusive speech, and from idle chatter. Meaning that the one thing, just keep this in mind for those of you out there, is that the way that the Buddha used the word, he didn't say thou shall not lie. No, he encouraged people to refrain or to abstain from lying. That's usually the language that the Buddha used. So, and the guidelines from the Buddha about right speech is that, especially from the Buddha, if he knew that something was not true, incorrect, and not beneficial, he wouldn't say it. If he knew that it was correct, it was true, beneficial, he would speak. And basically, the Buddha, whenever, and also his words are timely. So when ever that he speaks, whether his words would be welcome and disagreeable to others, or welcome and agreeable to others, but his speech was always true, correct, beneficial, and timely. The 5 keys to right speech that we need to be mindful of is it is spoken at the right time. This is what timely means. It is spoken in truth. It is spoken affectionately. It is spoken beneficially. It is spoken with a mind of goodwill. Goodwill here means loving kindness. And the one thing about words or speech that we use is that our tongue, even though it's boneless, can be used as a weapon. So malicious speech can be seen as a weapon. It can destroy friendship, relationship. It can disguise, or we can disguise malicious speech as concern about another's behavior. But if your speech is to manipulate others or to gain someone's appreciation or gratitude, that is malicious. Public speech can be malicious. Tabloid newspaper, talk radio, or internet chat room. So we need to be careful, especially in these days and age with social media, all kinds of social media out there. And also for people as parents, they need to be mindful of how social media can affect their kids' mental health. So, and all of this I am taken from the Bhante Gunaratana's book, The 8 Mindful Steps to Happiness. Harsh language is basically, cursing, this and that we need to learn to speak softly. Here's what the Buddha said: a fool who uses abusive language cuts himself and others with that axe. That axe here is the tongue. Even a computer can be considered as an axe. harsh speech has destructive power on children, and children are traumatized by harsh speech from their parents. And so therefore, children need to be nurtured by loving and caring speech. Or even animals, those of you who have pets, when you don't speak softly with your pets will show you how they can be traumatizing. So we need to speak with kind words, rejoice at and welcome, words that bear ill will to none, always speak kindly to others. And speaking our praise and appreciation increases the happiness of everyone involved. Soft words help children flourish, grow up with a positive feeling of self-worth, or what we call healthy adults, right? So there's no limit to the amount of joy that we can spread when we speak with kindness and skillfulness. I'm not sure if I had it here, but I remember when I was preparing for this lecture, we can even use right speech to create positive karma and to counter negative karma. So keep that in mind. Anyway, chatter, right? Gossip, foolish talk, or meaningless talk, like it's okay to ask, how was your weekend, this and that, but we need to be mindful about our conversation that prevent so that we are not dragged into the useless or time wasting chat about others or about other people. And the thing is, sometimes because human nature, we tend to believe whatever that we hear, as you guys have recognized about the news media, this and that, we need to be mindful of that. Again, gossip leads to misunderstanding and quarrels. Rumors can be used as weapons. And here Bhante Gunaratana said, when we hear gossip, we have two choices. Either we end the conversation or we discourage the person from speaking negatively. All unnecessary speech is harmful. From my perspective, let's say in a group, if I were in a group in a social chatting, if people saying negative things and I don't know most of them, then I would walk away. If there's someone that I know, then I would direct that person to a different topic, a different subject. And here, this is what I mean. We can speak softly and to purify ourselves, right? So basically, we abandon lying or false speech, or abstain from lying. We abandon divisive speech and abstain from divisive speech. We abandon abusive speech, or basically harsh speech, and we abstain from abusive or harsh language. We abandon idle chatter, and we abstain from idle chatter. And more on this by Daniel Bhikkhu, and I provide the link on the slide here. So that was right speech that I just finished. Now on to right action. Right action basically is about the 5 Buddhist precepts, or the 5 mindfulness trainings rewritten by Thich Nhat Hanh, and it's basically abstain from killing, from stealing, from speaking falsely, which we just cover, from sexual misconduct, and from using alcohol and other intoxicants. I also provide a link on the 5 mindfulness trainings in PDF form by Thich Nhat Hanh. So basically, our actions, when it's ethical, it will benefit ourselves and others. and it also help us to maintain this clarity of mind. That's why, like, in order to have mental clarity, which is the subject that we are gonna the third category that we are gonna cover next month, that's mental clarity. If anyone, or any of us who lives our lives unethically, then it would be difficult for us to have any kind of mental clarity. And so here, abstain from killing, that we can't harm ourselves or hurt ourselves and others, from human beings to animals to insects, because when we don't perform this, our mind can be peaceful. Our mind is free of hatred, and our mind is motivated by generosity and compassion, which will be shown through our actions. Abstain from from stealing, is that we need to honor people's property and wealth. We cannot take credit for someone else's ideas. Even here, Bhante Gunaratana said cheating on income taxes, writing bad checks, taking bribes, and engaging in fraudulent business practices. Again, he said, happiness requires peace of mind and a clear conscience. Abstain from this is from sexual misconduct, right? We need to be mindful of our sexual activity, and sexual misconduct here refers to rape against someone's will, sex with minors, animals, someone else's spouse or partner, or someone protected by parents or guardians, or by even a religious order. And having sex with someone appropriate or consenting adult is not sexual misconduct. That's the key. Now, the thing with love, sex, or the thing is, lust can never be completely satisfied. We need to be mindful of lust, or basically our sexual desire, because the thing is, lust cannot be eased by fulfilling it physically. Curing this condition requires much restraint. Abstain from false speech, which we just covered. Abstain from intoxicants, right? Back then, during the Buddhist time, it was just alcohol. But if you look at the society that we are in now, drugs and other intoxicants, we need to stay away from. If you look at opioid, fentanyl, anything that alter our ability to think rationally and properly, we need to abstain from. That's the key to recognize. The thing, speaking of intoxicants, right? People who suffer trauma, just going back to the slide that I list, the eight types of suffering. People with experienced trauma, they are vulnerable to substance use, alcohol, tobacco, all forms of drugs, cocaine, heroin, opioids, meth, or crystal meth, or porn, which is sex addiction, gambling, food, shopping. So we need to be mindful of that. So that was right action. Now onto the last item of the second category, moral compass, is basically right livelihood. What we need to be mindful of that the job that we do, it should not affect our spiritual progress or even our peace of mind. There is something called moral injury. what it means is that it's the damage done to one's conscience or moral compass when that person penetrates, witnesses, or fails to prevent acts that transgress one's own moral beliefs, values, or ethical codes of conduct. Let's going back to COVID back in 2020. Let's say someone working in the hospital, a nurse, and if she or he were to work with patients suffering from COVID without PPE, then it would, but he or she was ordered to do it, then that person suffer moral injury. So keep that in mind. I also provide a link for the definition. So the three questions that you need to ask is that, okay, what is your occupation? If that involves making weapons, poisons, killings, the Buddha said you are in the wrong livelihood, in the wrong career, or even like selling drugs. Here, Bhante Guna Ratana listed casinos, right? Gambling. Anything that is transacted or trade in black market, that's not the right occupation. The second question is to ask is that, does your job lead you to break the 5 Buddhist precepts or the 5 mindfulness trainings? But what it comes down to is your job about greed, hatred, or ignorance? Because any good job or profession can be made corruption. You just have to be mindful of your actions and their consequences. And lastly, the last question is, are there any aspects of my job that disturb me and keep my mind from settling down, meaning like, can you even sleep at night when you go to bed? That's the thing, so if you passed the first and the second, look at the last test, because anything that disturb your mind, that you're not able to have any mental clarity or sleep well, it will obstruct your spiritual progress. And here, because we're dealing with spirituality, we are dealing with meditation and hoping to achieve enlightenment. That's why, I need to share this with you guys. With that, I'm done. So that's pretty much the right time. Let's continue with our meditation session. Tonight, we'll also continue with loving kindness practice. Let's take your posture, whether you are sitting or lying down. If you're sitting, make sure that you are sitting straight up, especially your back. And take some deep breaths. Notice that when you breathe in, your body might tense up a little bit because it takes an amount of effort to fill your lungs and your body with air. But when you breathe out, it takes no effort. And that's how you can relax your body. So take as many deep breaths as you like to fully relax. Let go of your thoughts, your thinking mind. Put aside your planning. Let go of your fear, worry, or whatever that you have carried so far. Just put it aside. And try to relax. Even remind yourself to relax. Once you're done, then breathe normally through your nose. Allow your body to settle. Start with a smile. And notice how you feel when you smile. And also notice how that feeling gives rise to the physiological sensations in the body. And know that the feeling, the sensations are quickly changing, fading away. How you feel next depends on your mind, your body, or both. Let's stay with the breath. And let's do the sense-door practice by noticing your environment, the space around you, the room temperature. Let's first check in with your mind, see how busy it is and restless, wandering around. Know that your mind affects your feeling, emotion, your mood, your attitude, your thought process, your behavior. Your sense of seeing, whether your eyes are open or closed. Your sense of hearing, know that you cannot turn off your hearing consciousness. Your sense of smell, your sense of taste, and your sense of touch. How the clothes that you wear feels on your body. The sense door practice helps you to stay grounded and centered no matter where you are, so you don't get distracted easily or feel overwhelmed when you are being triggered. Let's continue to stay with the breath. Let's use the next couple minutes, perhaps, to process the thoughts in your conscious mind. And all you have to do is sit back and relax. And whatever thought that comes up, recognize it and let it go. Recognize it, let it go. You've probably noticed so many thoughts. That's how busy your mind is. And these thoughts are from your past experiences or even your planning. It's just that you didn't have time to deal with them or you even suppress them. So when you're sitting around or meditating, they appear seeking your attention. And all you have to do is allow each one to rise and pass away. You can also use this analogy. Think of your mind as your home. This awareness, this mindfulness is the owner of this home. Think of the thoughts that come to your front door as guests. So you acknowledge each guest. You can even say hello, but then let that guest go away. And that's how you treat your thoughts. Because the moment that you react to your thought or that you follow a thought, your mind is gone. You're out of your home. So try to relax, sit back, stay with the breath. See each thought for what it is and let it go. You may notice a certain thought that keeps coming back. It could be something that you have been working on or something that bothers you. So this thought, this particular thought keeps returning. All you have to do is investigate. Hopefully, once you figure it out, you let it go. And most likely, it does not come back. If it does, then you quickly notice it and let it pass. If you're not able to figure it out, then put it aside. You can always come back to it after the meditation. And that's how you processed most of the thoughts in your conscious mind. Stay with the breath. Stay home. If your mind keeps wandering, perhaps your mind is restless, then you can repeat a mantra or prayer, whatever that works for you. But again, ground your attention in the breath so that every time your mind is gone, you patiently bring it back to the breath. And this is also how you cultivate patience. Meaning, do not judge yourself harshly or critically. So now let's cultivate concentration by just paying attention, 100% of your attention to the breath, the in-breath and the out-breath. You can now ignore thoughts and noise and be 100% present with your in-breath and the out-breath. It helps to smile, to make it interesting for your mind to stay with the breath. Because when you smile, you naturally feel good, pleasant. Whatever story or narrative that your inner critic is telling you, ignore it. With practice, with mindfulness, you can even silence your inner critic. The longer you are able to stay with the breath, the stronger is your concentration. The deeper is your mindfulness. Let's move on and practice loving kindness for yourself. Loving kindness is your mental ability to wish yourself well, healthy, and happy, or sending goodwill to yourself. This is a mental training of the mind. So as you are sitting, you can repeat some of the following phrases. May I be healthy. May I know how to take care of my physical health. May I be happy. May I know how to find joy and happiness from within. May I let go of any anger, ill will, resentment, and hatred. May I be kind and loving to myself. Just keep repeating these phrases to cultivate a sense of loving kindness for yourself. And notice how you feel when you are being kind and loving to yourself, when you're able to turn off the voice of the inner critic. May I be healthy. May I know how to take care of my physical health. May I be happy. May I know how to find joy and happiness from within. May I let go of any anger, ill will, resentment, and hatred. May I be kind and loving to myself. Allow these phrases to become your new thoughts, replacing the negative thoughts that you have been telling yourself. And allow these phrases to become your new reminders to take care of your physical health and mental health. And allow the practice of loving kindness for yourself to become your new habit, so that when you neglect yourself, you know what to do naturally. So continue to repeat these phrases. Notice how you feel from within. Even that feeling of being kind, being loving, does not stay. And it's okay. And notice the peace and the calmness that follow. Let's sit in silence for the next few minutes. Let's continue to cultivate loving kindness for yourself. Let's check in with your mind, see how perhaps settled it is, how clear it is, that in a way you have what we call mental clarity. Again, know that your mind affects your feeling, emotion, your thought process, your mood, your attitude, your behavior. Let's check in with your body, your posture, and simply aware of the qualities of mindfulness, concentration, patience, and loving kindness that you just cultivated. With that, I'll hand it over to Danny.
Thank you, Venerable. So I think you and I are both baby boomers. I'm the middle and you kind of tail end, I think. And so turns out that as the baby boomer age, aging and longevity now is the biggest business opportunity. And I was just thinking when you were talking about rightful speech and how we need to be careful about our speech, that it can hurt, as much as a weapon. And all that we need to learn to be compassionate and loving kindness. But it turns out that those are the key ingredients to living a healthy life, longevity. And so a couple of days ago, there was an article about a Japanese lady, 110 years old, 110. And she's actually a second generation Japanese American. So 110 years old means that she lived through the Spanish flu, which is actually worse than COVID. And she lived through the Depression. She lived through World War II, and that she and other Japanese Americans were put in jail, were put in a concentration camp.
Yeah.
And she lived through that.
Wow.
And so when they asked her, what's your secret to longevity? Is it your food? So she said, not really. I like my tempura. So she eats deep fried food.
Yeah.
I like my udon. So that's carbohydrate, so not exactly a healthy diet. But she said, but I don't like to dwell on the past.
Mm-hmm.
I don't, and that's my key is that I'm always positive. I'm always compassionate. I'm always, and I think that's turns out that being compassionate and loving kindness makes you healthy.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So, well, anyway, thank you for that.
Mhm.
That was great. So, but I don't see any questions or comments out there. So I'm going to turn off the outside. And so for those of you who are tuning into this the first time, this is a monthly English meditation and Dharma talk. It's every first Tuesday of the month. So we'll see all of you in
June 4th.
in June 4th. Yeah. Okay. So let me